Okay, so this exercise is called squatting. And what I'm going to do is get you to space your feet about hip width apart still. So a lot of times when people do hip width apart, they actually make their feet too wide or too narrow. So if you put your hands on your hips, and then if you're doing it in a mirror, which I recommend so that you can actually see yourself doing the exercise, you'll see that your feet are kind of in line with the hips, with your hands, if you put your hands on the hips. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna bend your knees just a little bit. And the reason you're bending just a little to start is because it kind of frees up the hips so you can move more easily. If I lock my legs, it's a lot harder to get the alignment. My legs are kind of locked here. So I'm gonna bend them. And what I want to do is I want to engage the outer muscles of the hip to rotate my thigh bones outwards so that the knee is pointing in line with the midline of the foot. So first, I guess feet stance is really important. You want to make sure that one foot isn't in front of the other, that they're the same, so that they're turned out the same amount. So I'm going to engage the outer thigh to rotate those thigh bones out. And it's also going to rotate my shin bones out a little bit, which also will lift the arch of my foot. So I want to make sure I'm not like totally rolled out so my big toes are still grounded. And then as I find that activation, what I'm going to do is engage my deeper core muscles, which are described in another exercise, both multifidus and transverse abdominis. So I'm going to spread my sit bones to activate the deep muscles of my back, pull my tummy to my spine, keeping that activation in the hip, and it's subtle. And then what I'm going to do is with control, I'm going to sit backwards as my chest comes forward and lifts up. And I'm keeping that activation in my core the whole time, in my hips. I'm not letting my knees come in. I'm keeping them out in line with the feet, and then I'm coming back up. So we'll do that again. The tendency is, because we're all dominant on one side or the other, is to kind of shift our weight more to one leg or the other. If you have a mirror in front of you, you can see more easily if your weight is more on one side, or just feel it out. You can sometimes feel your weight more on one side. If you've got an injury on one side also, you're more likely to move away from the side that you've got the injury on. And I want you to try to keep the weight as strong as you can, evenly on both sides. So I'm lifting my arches, turning the thigh bones and the shin bones out, activating the hips, activating the deep back muscles, the tummy muscle comes in. Your hands, they can be, if you get advanced and you want to hold a weight right here, that's good. You can put your hands over your shoulders. I'm going to keep mine on my hips this time, and I'm just sitting back as if I'm reaching back, sitting into a chair as my chest lengthens forward, and then I'm coming up. And then I'm going to just do a side view for you so you see the same thing from the side. So my feet are hip width apart. I'm engaging the outer hip to rotate the thigh bones out, activating my core, the back muscles, the tummy muscles. And then I'm just sitting back as I lengthen forward. So it's like I'm sitting back in a chair and then coming up. And as you see, I'm not losing this arch in my back at all. I'm keeping the arch in my back. I'm not letting it flatten out. I'm keeping it strong. And then back up.